I staged a collision with my ex-boyfriend's luxury car. He didn't get out of the car but just lowered half of the car window. We looked at each other, and I saw mockery and disgust in his eyes. I was quite embarrassed. So I patted the dirt off my body and got up by myself. 5 years ago, when he was at his lowest point, I abandoned him. 5 years later, he is worth hundreds of millions and can be called the national husband. And I am disabled. My face is completely ruined. And I am extremely poor. So, I decided to ask him to get back together. But he said he already has a girl he likes. I said it doesn't matter. I can be a mistress. Once Zachary said, "Are you not injured? Get in the car. I'll give you a ride." I was ecstatic. Rich and noble but not forgetting old friends. This ex-boyfriend is really great. I got on his car with my crutches, patting the seat. A luxury car is indeed different. Sitting on it makes me feel like my butt is covered in gold. Zachary gave me a disdainful look. "What's wrong with your leg?" "Oh, it's nothing serious. I broke my leg while skiing." "Seeing that you are in a miserable state, haven't you had a good life these years?" "It's true. Not very good. Now, I have messy hair, an out-of-shape body, dull skin, and simple clothes. Just like this rainy season. My whole body exudes a musty smell. I am completely different from the glamorous department flower 5 years ago. I tittied up my hair after leaving you. I really can't get used to it. I still think the days with you are better." Zachary sneered. I asked him, "What about you? Are you living a good life? Have you got married?" He looked ahead and drove carefully, casually saying, "Not yet." "Oh, he hasn't got married yet?" Suddenly, I had a dirty thought. So is there still a chance for us to get back together? This thought is really too dirty. After all, when I dumped him back then, I was merciless. Now that he is prosperous, I want to stick to him again. I'd better hold back first and strike when the time is right. "Where do you live?" he asked me. I told him the address. He frowned. "That urban village?" "Yes. That's the only place I can afford to live now." "Wendy, seeing that you are so miserable, I feel relieved." When I got off the car, he teased. I grinned and showed him my WeChat QR code. "Add me as a friend." To the next day, after much deliberation, I sent a WeChat message to Zachary. "Let's have dinner together tonight." Smiley face, rose rose. After an hour, he replied, "I have a dinner appointment tonight." Me, "Then when will you have time?" "It's up to you." Smiley face. He, "I have no time any day." Me, "Well then, don't just be busy all the time. Take care of yourself." Rose hug. It started raining again. This annoying weather. I played on the computer for a while, and then went to sleep. When I woke up, it was still raining. The roof actually started to leak, and the water was dripping right on my open laptop. "It's over." I quickly rescued it. After struggling for a long time, the computer still stopped working. What bad luck. This life is really hard. I sat by the window and stared blankly at the scenery outside. The scenery outside the window is a public toilet. Every time I open the window, the smell is really refreshing. Knock. 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 Someone was knocking on the door. It should be the landlord coming to collect the rent. Otherwise, who else would look for me? I have been abandoned by the whole world. I walked over with difficulty on my crutches and opened the door. I was stunned. The person in front of me was tall, handsome, and dressed in an elegant and expensive suit. He seemed to be from a different world than this crude and dirty urban village. It was my wealthy ex-boyfriend. "Zachary, I'm here to pick you up for dinner." He was straightforward. "What? Didn't you invite me to have dinner together tonight?" "But you said you had a dinner appointment." "That's the dinner appointment with you." This man is so annoying. Playing hard to get. It's still early before dinner time. Can I come in and sit for a while? With Mr. Zachary's presence. My humble abode is truly honored. I invited him in with a flattering smile. There was only a single sofa in the room. When he sat on the sofa, I could only sit on the bed. He looked around the room with a complicated expression. Finally, his gaze fell on my exposed leg. Didn't you break your leg? Why isn't there a cast? The cast has just been removed. He showed a suspicious expression. What's really going on? Tell me the truth. I gave an awkward smile. Don't ask. He very considerately changed the topic. We talked about our respective experiences in the past 5 years. Wendy, what on earth have you gone through to end up like this? Back then, you had such good conditions. I was helpless. It's all about timing and luck. My luck is too bad. Maybe it's fate. What about you? How did you become so successful? Oh no. So prosperous? He said. I am also extremely fortunate to have met the noble person in my life. I sighed. I really misjudged you back then. I thought you wouldn't make it. Now I sincerely apologize for the harm I once caused you. He smiled. There's no need. Thank you for leaving me. Without you, I live a better life. Without me, he lives a better life. Zachary, you can really hurt people. 3 before going to eat. He took me to SKP and wanted to buy me some clothes. I was extremely happy in my heart, but said on my lips that he didn't need to spend money on me. He said, with your ragged clothes, I can't take you out. Oh, it turns out he dislikes my image. In the fitting room, I dawdled and didn't come out for a long time. He asked outside, Wendy, are you done yet? Almost. My leg is not very convenient. Do you need my help? No. No. But he had already barged in. I was only wearing underwear. And he saw my body. Whoo. Should he be held responsible? He looked at my body. His brows furrowed. I was embarrassed and stammered. Zachary, help me up. He hugged me. I smelled his scent. A simple soap fragrance. The same as 5 years ago. It was so familiar that it suddenly made me tear up. He asked me softly, why are you so thin? You are all skin and bones. I didn't answer him. I didn't know how to explain. After putting on the skirt, I stood in front of the mirror and was stunned for a moment. Clothes make the man. It turns out that I am still beautiful. Vaguely like the beautiful and proud school flower 5 years ago. Unfortunately, things have changed. After buying the clothes, we went to eat. A top-notch Western restaurant. It is also one of Zachary's properties. My stomach, which has been eating takeout and instant noodles all year round, rarely enjoys high-end ingredients. The first main course came. Wellington steak. I held a knife and fork and sliced on the steak. I couldn't use much strength in my hand. The more I sliced, the less I could eat. Zachary watched me struggle. Wendy, didn't you break your leg? Why is your hand not working well either? And just now in the fitting room, I felt that not only your legs and feet are not working well, but your whole body's coordination is very poor. You used to learn ballet. What's wrong now? His barrage of questions made me very anxious. So I simply gritted my teeth and forcibly changed the topic. Zachary, let's get back together. It was like a thunderbolt. Zachary was stunned, and the knife and fork in his hand fell on the plate. After regaining his composure, he picked up the knife and fork, slowly ate a piece of steak, and said, Don't joke. Wendy, I'm not joking. I know you love me. We had so many beautiful memories. Those are all old things. I don't remember. He was indifferent. I pouted and copiously said, You're lying. There was a hint of disgust in his eyes. As if my coquetry was very ugly in his eyes. I already have a girl I like. He said. I was stunned. Who is it? You don't know her. She is not in the country. At this point, he paused and said seriously, I love her very much. I lowered my head, pinched my temples, adjusted my mood, and then looked up and smiled at him with 8 teeth. It doesn't matter. I can be a mistress. For I was driven out of the restaurant by Zachary. He said, "Wendy, you are even worse than 5 years ago. You are shameless to a certain extent." I had to take the bus home by myself, wearing a brand new luxury brand skirt, with delicate makeup and leaning on a crutch. I became the most eye-catching passenger on the bus. Thinking back 5 years ago, when I walked on campus, I was always the girl with the highest rate of turning heads. Zachary chased me for a long time before he caught me. At that time, we were a perfect match and envied by others. But just before graduation, I suddenly proposed to break up without warning. He waited for 3 days and 3 nights downstairs in my dormitory, just asking to see me and give him another chance. Until I opened the window and scolded him, "Zachary, you are not worthy of me at all. In the future, you won't be able to earn a lot of money. You will be a poor loser all your life." My voice resounded throughout the female dormitory area. Since then, Zachary disappeared. The wheel of fate began to turn. After graduating, I quit my job after working for a few months and traveled around the world. Until 3 years ago, my body began to have problems. The treatment cost all my savings and I ended up in this situation. And Zachary is very successful in the fields of online finance and live streaming and has become a new aristocrat among post-90s. In the past 5 years, we haven't contacted each other, but I can hear news about him from time to time, from the news and from my schoolmates. Last year, during the school anniversary, the department held a gathering. My former roommate Jessie asked me, "Wendy, are you going?" "I am not well. I won't go." "Don't you want to see Zachary? He is extremely awesome now. He donated $50 million to the school. We all want to see this big shot and see if we can get some resources from him." "You can get resources from him. I can only find humiliation from him." After the gathering, Jessie sent me a message again. "Oh my God. It's a pity you didn't come. Zachary specifically asked about you. Asking about me is probably to see how miserable I am after leaving him." When I got home, I was exhausted and dizzy. I hugged the spittin' and vomited so hard that it was a mess. Going shopping, eating Western food, taking the bus. These activities are too intense for my body. I can't bear it anymore. I trembled and dialed 120. Just after connecting, I hung up. "It's too expensive. I can't even afford 120 now." "Forget it. I won't go to the hospital for now. Let's see. Maybe it will be better after a rest." I lay on the sofa and closed my eyes to rest. Oh no. My body actually started to convulse. My heart was beating very fast, as if it wanted to jump out of my chest. Cold sweat soaked my clothes. I shakily picked up my phone and dialed Zachary's number. After a long time, he picked up the phone and said infuriately, "It's so late. What's up? Help me." After saying these 3 words, I lost consciousness. 5 when I woke up again, I was on a hospital bed. There were several tubes inserted in my body. There was a person dozing off by the bed. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was loosened. And his hair was messy, as if he had just been through a battle. "Zachary." I called him weakly. He suddenly sat up. "You're awake? Thank you. You saved my life." He looked at me. His throat moved, and asked me hoarsely, "Why didn't you tell me that you have this disease?" "What disease?" "Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis? Motor neuron disease? Or commonly known as ALS?" 3 years ago, I often felt weak, had muscle twitching, and was easily fatigued. My legs gradually lost their strength. Until one day, I fainted in a bar in London. The local hospital diagnosed me with motor neuron disease, commonly known as ALS. After I returned to China, the domestic hospital also made the same diagnosis. This disease will make the muscles of the patient's limbs, trunk, chest, and abdomen gradually become weakened atrophy, progress to generalized muscle atrophy and difficulty swallowing, and finally die of respiratory failure. There is no cure. Such a terrible disease has found me. When I met Zachary, most of the movement ability of my lower limbs had been lost, and my upper limbs sometimes felt numb. Unexpectedly, my condition suddenly deteriorated. If it weren't for Zachary coming to save me, I would have died on my own sofa. I gave Zachary a faint smile, seeing me so miserable. Are you feeling a little better? I finally got my retribution. Zachary sighed, brushed the hair off my face. No matter how much I hate you, I don't want to see you like this. After all what? He didn't continue. I wanted to hold his hand, but I found it very difficult to even lift my arm. The disease is accelerating the erosion of my body. I don't have much time left. Zachary. I looked at him affectionately. Be my boyfriend again. Then I can die in peace. Zachary frowned and turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. I said, I already have a girl I like. It doesn't matter. I can be a mistress. There was a deathly silence. Wendy. He gritted his teeth and called my name. I help you out of sympathy. Leave some dignity for yourself. Indeed. What I did was very undignified. I abandoned him when he was at his lowest point and severely trampled on his self-esteem. Now that he is prosperous, I want to go back to the past with him, but I no longer have the capital to stand side by side with him. What's your family's phone number? I'll contact them and let them take care of you. I don't have time to stay here with you all the time. He was in a bad mood. I don't have any family anymore. I've cut off all relations. I said. Zachary just gave a cold smile after hearing this. Wendy. You really can do anything to stick to me. Although Zachary scolded me, he still stayed and took care of me very conscientiously. He also arranged for me to stay in a VIP ward and told me not to worry about the medical expenses and just focus on getting better. I was extremely touched. Such an ex-boyfriend who repays kindness with kindness is really hard to find. Zachary. Tell me about the girl you like. He impatiently put down his phone. With your cheap life, living to 80 years old is not a problem. Don't worry. Oh. I lowered my head. Her name is Hisui Gui. After a while, he said softly. She is a netizen I met on a forum social software. At that time, Zachary had just broken up with me. After graduating, he didn't find a good job. Repeated setbacks made him suffer from depression. One morning, he posted a status on Instagram. This world is so dark. I want to leave. Soon. He received a private message. The sender was named Hisui Gui. Hisui Gui made a strange request. Before you leave, buy a stock. The ups and downs commemorate your life. For some reason, Zachary listened to her. He used all his savings to buy a stock recommended by Hisui Gui. At the close of trading, that stock soared, and Zachary suddenly made 3 times as much money. He received a private message from Hisui Gui. Look, this world also has bright moments. Don't leave. Let's play together. The appearance of Hisui Gui brought a ray of sunshine into Zachary's dark life. She is a very magical girl. Under her guidance, Zachary succeeded in everything he did and every investment he made was successful. She seemed to have a golden touch. From stock trading, cryptocurrency trading, online finance to short video live streaming, wherever she pointed, there was a trend. In the past 5 years, under Hisui Gui's guidance, Zachary has caught many trends and avoided many investment minefields. Money and fame came like a flood. Impossible. You are joking. I was very skeptical. How can there be such a magical person? More powerful than Buffett? Wouldn't she have become a world celebrity long ago and still be your girlfriend? Zachary seemed to have expected that I wouldn't believe him. Ignoring my doubts, he said very seriously, everything I have is given by her. I will spend the rest of my life repaying her. How will you repay her? I asked him. I think I have made enough money. In the days to come, I want to be with her and be good to her for a lifetime. What did she say? His eyes trembled. After I confessed to her last week, she went offline. In the past few days, she has never been online again, hasn't sent me a message, and has disappeared. Perhaps she just wants to help you make money and doesn't want to fall in love with you. But why? I don't understand. I thought for a while and asked him, when did you confess to her? It was the day after I accidentally met you. I told her about your situation. She knows that we used to be in a relationship. She also advised me to take good care of you. Oh, no wonder. First, he refused my invitation to dinner. Then he came to invite me to dinner. It turned out that he listened to the advice of his little girlfriend. I had a sudden inspiration. Hey, could it be that she wants to help SB fulfill a wish us? So she quit? Impossible. He immediately refuted loudly. I have never thought about getting back together with you. I like her. How can you compare to her? After the words fell, the room was very quiet. I smiled gently and looked away. I finally understood the feeling of Zachary when I said on the female dormitory building that he was a loser being looked down upon by the person you love the most. Feeling pain, confusion, and feeling abandoned by the whole world. 7 When I woke up, Zachary was gone. He prepaid enough medical expenses for me and hired a nurse for me. He himself put aside his work and went abroad to look for her. He left me a note. I don't want to miss it again. I sighed. Fool. You have been missing all along. A month later, Zachary came back. So, did you find your true love? No. He was downcast. From his narration, I only learned that after the mysterious woman, named Hisui Gui, cut off contact with Zachary. Zachary searched for her all over the world by tracking her IP. However, that woman was like a wisp of light smoke. Looking from a distance, it seemed faintly visible. But when he rushed up close and touched it with his hand, it disappeared. Wendy, do me a favor, Zachary said. What favor? Send a private message to Hisui Gui on Instagram. She is quite concerned about our past. This time, as soon as she heard that I met you, she disappeared without saying goodbye. Go and explain it clearly to her. I was not very happy and said, if she doesn't listen to your explanation, will my explanation work? Just consider it as paying off your medical expenses. Otherwise, how will you repay me? My heart turned cold. It turns out that everything has a price. Zachary's charity, to me, requires me to repay. However, I don't want to talk to that Hisui Gui. I said, I don't have an Instagram account. Zachary sneered. You have been secretly peeping at me with your Instagram small account these years. Did you think I didn't know? Oh. So he knew all along. I said, my computer has my Instagram account and password saved. But my computer is broken, and I can't log in. My excuse is really very stiff. Zachary gave me a contemptuous look and turned away. For the next 2 months, he didn't come to see me again. The nurse he hired was very experienced and responsible. She helped me with rehabilitation every day. She said that if people with ALS are well taken care of and stick to rehabilitation, many people can live for more than 10 years. I smiled helplessly. This kind of life has no value or happiness. It's just living for the sake of living. I would rather die quickly. On this day, when I was doing leg exercises with difficulty, Zachary called. Wendy. I found her. A toe? Really? I was very surprised. Zachary told me that he had been persevering while looking for his beloved in the past 2 months. One late night, she briefly went online. The IP address showed Maldives. He immediately chased to the Maldives and then left her a message, expressing his deep love. Finally, he moved the beauty and met her. She returned to China with him. Zachary, are you sure she is the one you are looking for? I'm sure, of course. Then, Congratulations. Then I originally wanted to say, can I be your mistress? But on second thought, I better not make such a disgusting joke again. In fact, I never thought about getting back together with him. I just want to say a complete goodbye to him before I die and never miss him again. Wendy. He suddenly called my name very seriously. Zachary. What's wrong? Tomorrow is Chinese Valentine's Day. I am going to propose to her. Oh. Are you serious? Don't you want to think about it again? Isn't it too hasty? 5 years have been wasted. I don't have time to waste anymore. Then, it's up to you. Wendy. I invite you to my proposal ceremony. No. I refused without even thinking. She has always wanted to meet you and thank you. Funny. Thank me for what? Thank me for leaving Zachary. Such a good blue chip stock. To her? So green tea. But on second thought, meeting this extraordinary woman can also satisfy my curiosity. What kind of woman can make Zachary recognize her so quickly? Early the next morning, the makeup artist team sent by Zachary came to the hospital ward. They put on delicate makeup for me, put on an ethereal dress, and were meticulous down to every strand of hair. I kept saying, there's no need to be so exaggerated. Light makeup is fine. I'm going to watch the excitement, not to compete with the bride. The makeup artist just kept saying, the girl is so beautiful. Mr. Zachary will be mesmerized when he sees you. Hey, I'm not going to be a mistress. The proposal ceremony was held at Zachary's villa. After I arrived, the bodyguard carried me out of the car and put me in a wheelchair. The nurse pushed the wheelchair into the deep courtyard of the luxury mansion. My heart was in my throat. I was about to meet his sui gui. What should I say? What should I do? 9. The bodyguard pushed open the golden door. What came into view was a magnificent and decorated scene that blinded me. Wait. Why do I see some familiar faces? Henry. My college desk mate? Jesse. My college best friend? Zoe. My college roommate? Why are they all here? In my current state. How can I let them all see me? Take me away quickly. Hurry up. I begged the nurse. A nurse leaned close to my ear and said, don't be afraid. They are here to send blessings. Sending blessings to Zachary and his sui gui has nothing to do with me. Suddenly, there was a cheer. I saw Zachary wearing a neat suit, holding roses, and slowly walking down the spiral staircase. He looked so elegant and proud, and the affection in his eyes was rippling like water. At this moment, I thought I was watching a movie or seemed to be in a dream. Where is his sui gui? Why hasn't she appeared yet? Somehow, I became more and more nervous and watched Zachary walking towards me. Watched him coming to me. Watched him kneeling on one knee in front of me and presenting roses. Watched him say to me, Wendy, will you marry me? Me. Did I go to the wrong set? Marry him. Marry him. Marry him. My classmate surged vigorously. I glared at Jessie. She smiled apologetically at me. Zachary, are you crazy? We broke up so long ago. Are you still pestering me? I was in a bad mood. Marry me. He looked at me steadily. Marry me. He sui gui. I was stunned. Sure enough, he knew everything. That's right. I am his sui gui. 10 in the 5 years after breaking up with Zachary, I have been in contact with him on Instagram under the online name of his sui gui. In the first 2 years when I wasn't sick yet, I traveled around the world. The IP address was sometimes in Japan and sometimes in the UK. Later, when I got sick, I continued to log in with a fake overseas IP. And he never suspected. He mentioned meeting several times, but I refused his request on the grounds of being too far away, until my illness gradually became more serious and it became more and more difficult for me to type with my fingers. I felt it was time to end it, but I didn't know how to say goodbye to him. 5 years ago, I abandoned him in such a resolute way. 5 years later, I don't want to hurt him again. I don't know if it was arranged by God. I actually bumped into his car. I don't know why he would come near where I live. Anyway, after 5 years, we met unexpectedly like this. Although he was full of contempt and disdain, I could see the excitement and uneasiness in his heart. In the past 5 years, he has never forgotten me. Because he often mentioned me to Hisui Gui. I am his white moonlight. His regret. I was so afraid that after I died, he would be sad. So, I decided to destroy Wendy in his heart. I pretended to be a gold digger and shamelessly wanted to be his mistress. Sure enough, I disgusted him. When he drove me out of the restaurant. When he firmly told me that he already had a beloved. When he left me, who was seriously ill, in the hospital and went to look for Hisui Gui. I was very relieved. Zachary, seeing you so heartless. I feel relieved. Hisui Gui cutting off contact with him was an accident. That day it was raining. The roof of my house was leaking and the computer was soaked and broken. I couldn't log into Instagram. I had to ask my best friend Jessie to log in for me. She traveled all over the world because of work. Every time she arrived at a place, she just logged into Hisui Gui's account to prove that she was still safe and sound. After that, I would find a way to make Hisui Gui disappear from Zachary's world. But I didn't expect that Zachary told me that he found her in the Maldives. My first reaction was that this must be a fraud. I originally wanted to expose it. But on second thought, rather than letting him painfully lose the real me, it's better to let him happily have a fake me. Even if that woman is for money. Zachary is so rich. It doesn't matter. But now I find out that I am the one who is deceived. This proposal ceremony is clearly prepared for me. No wonder they dressed me up like a bride. Jessie came over and said to me, Wendy, I'm sorry. After I arrived in the Maldives, I saw Zachary's message to you. It was so affectionate and touching that I couldn't help but tell him everything. She wiped her tears. Don't torture yourself for him anymore. Life is short. Love boldly and freely. Yes, life is short. My life, in particular, is very short. The crowd dispersed, leaving only me and Zachary. He held me, who was thin and weak, in his arms and sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The sunlight shone on us. Wendy, you owe me a lot of explanations. First, what's the real reason for breaking up with me? Second, why did you contact me with a small account after breaking up? Third, where did you get the magic power to turn everything into gold and help me make so much money? I was silent for a long time and asked him a question. Zachary, do you believe in time travel? 11. I am a time traveler. In the previous life before time traveling, I didn't break up with Zachary. We accompanied and supported each other. We graduated together, found jobs together, and then got married. We used our savings to pay the down payment and had our own small family. Life was happy and perfect. We envied no one else. The only drawback was that I had 2 consecutive miscarriages and couldn't find the reason. Zachary said, then let's not have children. Let's spend our lives protecting each other. I leaned in his arms and said, okay. Then God played a huge joke on us. 2 years after getting married, one day when I was going down the stairs, I suddenly felt weak in my legs and fell heavily. I was sent to the hospital. First, the external injuries were treated. Then other problems with my body were found and various examinations were conducted. After more than 3 months of examinations and expert consultations, I was finally diagnosed. I had a very rare disease, commonly known as ALS. There is currently no effective treatment. From the onset of the disease to death, it can be as fast as 3 months and as slow as 10 years. It was like a bolt from the blue. Zachary didn't believe it and said that he must cure me. However, after 3 years of hard treatment, there was no effect. I became paralyzed from the limbs until I couldn't breathe on my own. The doctor cut an opening in my throat and inserted an oxygen tube. In addition to the oxygen tube, I also had a nasogastric tube and a urinary catheter inserted in my body. The physical pain had reached its limit. What made me even more uncomfortable was that Zachary was burdened by me. My parents divorced when I was young, and I had long cut off relations with them. After I got sick, Zachary carried it all alone. He took me around the world to seek medical treatment and took care of me, who was becoming increasingly weak and incompetent. He pretended to be strong and took care of me day and night. He also quit his good job and sold the house to take me abroad for treatment. Although the doctors repeatedly emphasized that the incidence of my disease is 1 in 10 million, the cure rate, so far, is 0. On the night of our 5th wedding anniversary, Zachary sat by the hospital bed, kissed my hand, and said hoarsely, "Wendy, don't listen to those doctors. As long as I still have a breath, I will cure you at all costs. At all costs. Fool. If you cure me, I can make it up to you for the rest of my life. But if you can't cure me, who will repay the price you have paid and everything you have lost?" I especially wanted to persuade him to give me a quick end and pull out my tube. Don't torture each other like this. But with a tube inserted in my trachea, I couldn't speak. And my hands couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. Only my eyes could still shed tears. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, a voice asked me, if you could start over, how would you arrange your life? When I opened my eyes again, I found myself sleeping in the college dormitory. I stretched my legs and raised my hands. I was full of strength. Did I travel back to 5 years ago? Who says life can't start over? My life for 5 years. I ran crazily on the playground, feeling the joy of a healthy body. Then I lay on the lawn and cried bitterly. I knew that 2 years later, I would start to fall ill. 5 years later, I would be covered with tubes all over my body, and would rather die than live. All this cannot be changed. My life cannot be changed. But Zachary's can. In this life that has started over, I want to leave Zachary and give him a happy life. 12. So there was that breakup that shocked the whole school. I opened the window and scolded Zachary, saying that he was not worthy of me, and that he would be a poor loser all his life. It made him extremely heartbroken. I was even more heartbroken than him. I could only tell myself that a short pain is better than a long one. Although I said that he would be a poor loser all his life, I wanted to make him a billionaire. In my previous life, I was engaged in the financial and consulting industries. I knew exactly what would be the most profitable in the next 5 years. So, I transformed into Hisui GUI and contacted Zachary on Instagram and recommended a stock to him. This stock was the beginning of his life's turnaround. In the following years, I predicted all the trends. Whatever I told him to invest in would make a huge profit. He became a young billionaire. And I gave up my job early and traveled all over the world. I wanted to see this beautiful world more while I could still move. 2 years later, as expected, I fell ill. I couldn't change my own destiny. But I changed the destiny of the person I love the most. That's also perfect. I calmly waited for death in poverty. But God didn't let me be calm. He let me meet Zachary, and let him see my miserable state. It wasn't arranged by God. Zachary said, Jesse revealed your situation to me. On the day we accidentally met, I actually went to look for you specifically. Okay, Jesse, that annoying best friend. I have money. A lot of money. Wendy, I will do everything to cure you. He hugged me tightly, his voice trembling slightly. I shook my head. Zachary, I only ask one thing of you. Don't insert tubes into me. It's too painful. Okay. There was a suppressed sobbing beside my ear. 3 months later, a critically ill patient was sent to the hospital. In the late stage of ALS. It was so severe that the respiratory muscles were paralyzed and breathing on one's own was impossible. The doctor said to the patient's husband, "We must cut open her trachea and insert an oxygen tube for assisted breathing. Please sign." The man's hand holding the pen was trembling and he couldn't write for a long time. The doctor kept urging. He sighed deeply and threw away the pen. Doctor. We give up rescue. He sat in front of the hospital bed and looked at her blankly. She half opened her eyes, with tears in them. Her mouth slowly opened, revealing a faint smile. Even though she was haggard, she was still very beautiful when she smiled, just like the blooming school flower 5 years ago. Finally, she closed her eyes and tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. The smile remained on her face forever. He bent down, kissed her forehead, and cried heartbreakably. The end.